Ladies and gentlemen, I couldn't be more excited about making this video here for you as we're less than 2 weeks away from the NFL season starting, and today we're going to be taking a first look at the Week 1 DraftKings main slate pricing. What I'll be doing here today is going position by position, talking about the cash game plays that are sticking out to me here early on, and then we'll wrap up the video putting together a first look cash lineup. Now again everyone, we're still 2 weeks out here from the NFL season starting, so this is definitely an early look at the Week 1 pricing, but just like I did last year, as we get closer to lock on Sundays, I will be putting out 2 separate NFL videos breaking down my final cash game plays and my final GPP plays, so make sure you stay tuned for those videos. With that being said everyone, let's take a first look here at this Week 1 NFL DraftKings main slate. Now before we dive into the quarterbacks here, I do want to mention that DraftKings has notoriously priced a lot of players down in Week 1, trying to bring in new customers, allowing you to build fun and exciting lineups, but that doesn't seem to be the case here for 2023, so I just wanted to acknowledge that right away, and honestly, I'm okay with it. So what I'm going to do here is go position by position, but rather than highlighting the pricing for each individual player, which would take me forever to do, I have created a graphic for each individual position highlighting the first look players that are sticking out to me. Now the first thing that really stuck out to me here at the quarterback position was DraftKings pricing up the dual threat quarterbacks of Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, and Justin Fields. They are priced appropriately in my opinion. If we look at Jalen Hurts here from last year, who was pretty much a top 3 quarterback week in and week out, his pricing off to the right hand side there, you can see he was priced in the low 8K range throughout most of the season. Now I'd have no problem spending up for Lamar or Hurts in my Week 1 cash lineup. As you guys know from watching my videos last year, $50,000 I'm shooting for 3x value when it comes to my cash lineup. That's 150 DraftKings points. If we break that down by player, Lamar, I would need 24 DraftKings points. Definitely think he can do that at home against Houston. Hurts, a little tougher matchup on the road against New England, but one of the most consistent quarterbacks we have in the NFL, especially from a fantasy perspective. $7,800, we would need 23.4 DraftKings points. We know he can get there. Now, Justin Fields is more of a tournament play in my opinion for Week 1, and then heading down here to the 6K range, I really like Justin Herbert at $6,900. Not only did the Chargers draft a wide receiver with their first round pick in Quentin Johnston last year, they brought in the offensive coordinator from the Dallas Cowboys in Kellen Moore, who loves to throw the ball and throw the ball deep, and we all know that Herbert has a cannon of an arm. Plus on top of that, I really love the matchup here at home against the Miami Dolphins. A lot of shootout potential there, and likely a popular game, especially on the tournament side of things in Week 1, but at $6,900, we need 20.7 DraftKings points out of Herbert to get 3x value, and I definitely think he can get there. And then the last 2 quarterbacks that were sticking out to me here from a cash game perspective early on was from the same game between the Jags and Colts. We had Trevor Lawrence here at $6,500. You know, another year in the NFL, another year in Doug Peterson's system. You bring in Calvin Ridley, another weapon for him to throw to. You know, we're going to get guys like Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram who are more comfortable in this offense. And Trevor Lawrence could have a massive year, and at $6,500 we only need 19.5 DraftKings points. He averaged 19.2 last year. I think he's only going to be better here in year 3. Now on the other side of that game, we could go with an Anthony Richardson. Now I do have a little pause when it comes to rostering rookies, especially rookie quarterbacks, in my cash lineup, especially in Week 1, but at $5,600 we would need 16.8 DraftKings points for Richardson to meet 3x value. With that rushing upside that he brings and what we saw in the preseason, not crazy to think that he could get there. Now, again, most of my attention is on Justin Herbert here, and he is my favorite cash game quarterback as we sit 2 weeks out from the opening kickoff. Now, moving over here to the running back position, this is definitely the hardest position to lock down in my opinion as we sit 2 weeks out due to some of the uncertainty that we have. For example, a guy like Jonathan Taylor could be traded out of Indianapolis within 24 24 hours of me recording this video. We got guys like Jeff Wilson who are questionable for week 1. If he happens to miss, that could make Raheem Mostert a number 1 running back. So I'm going to want to make sure I lock those things down before I make my final cash game plays. But here's who's sticking out to me initially. Now, through and through, I love playing Christian McCaffrey as much as I can, but I do prefer Austin Eckler over him in my cash lineup in week 1. Like the matchup at home a lot better against Miami. McCaffrey's got to go on the road against Pittsburgh, who's got a sound defense. Could McCaffrey go for 20, 25, even 30 DraftKings points? Yeah, he can do that against anybody, but I like the upside a little bit more and a safer floor out of Austin Eckler, so he's my favorite cash game play there, and you could stack him up with Justin Herbert as well if you wanted to, considering the involvement he has in the passing game. There's some nice plays here in the 6K range that I'll definitely be considering from a tournament perspective, but honestly from a cash game perspective, the next guy that really stuck out to me here was Rachaad White of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. For starters, I like the matchup here on the road against the Minnesota Vikings, who couldn't stop the run or the pass, had one of the worst defenses in the NFL last year, and bringing in Brian Flores as their defensive coordinator should definitely help that defense, but I don't think they're going to be stellar or elite by any means, and whether or not the Buccaneers are playing with a lead or playing from behind in this game, Rachaad White should be involved. We saw him get heavily involved in the passing game towards the end of last season. You can see there from week 12 on, 9, 8, 5, 4, 5 targets. Pretty much week in and week out, he was seeing anywhere from 4 to 6. I suspect that's going to be the same thing here, especially with Baker Mayfield being the starting quarterback, who's notoriously like to dump it down to his running backs. And at $5,500 there, we need Rachaad White to get 16.5 DraftKings points. Definitely think he could be around that 14 to 16K range, again, especially in that matchup against the Vikings. Now, again, there are definitely some other guys here that I'll be considering from a tournament perspective. Make sure you stay tuned for my video breaking down my favorite tournament plays for week 1. But now we're going to get into that tier 2 category here of cash game running backs that I like. First being Raheem Mostert here of the Miami Dolphins. Now again, this largely depends on whether or not Jeff Wilson is going to play. If he doesn't play, I might lock in Mostert as a running back in my cash lineup. If Wilson does play, we might be able to consider Mostert here, but probably more of a tournament consideration. But at $5,400, we would only need 16.2 DraftKings points, and by all means, he should be able to do that against that Chargers defense, who couldn't stop the run at all of last season. Next guy that I like here then is Jamal Williams of the New Orleans Saints. With Alvin Kamara set to miss the first 3 games of the season, I expect Williams to get the ball early and often, especially with Derek Carr getting familiar with this offense right away. I wouldn't be surprised if New Orleans tries to run the ball as much as possible. This is a guy who could legitimately see anywhere from 15 to 20 touches per game and should get all of the goal line work, especially in those first 3 weeks of the season. This is a tough matchup at home here against the Tennessee Titans, who have a legitimate run-stopping defense, but at that price of $5,100, we would need 15.3 DraftKings points for Williams to meet 3x value, and even though it is a tougher matchup, I think he can get there, especially being the goal line running back. And then another guy that I like here at $5,100 is Brian Robinson Jr. of the Washington Commanders. We're likely going to see a split between him and Antonio Gibson, probably a 60-40 split or 65-35 split, with Robinson getting a majority of the carries. We kind of saw that towards the end of last year. You can see some really good volume here, which led to some solid fantasy outings to close out the season. You can see off to the right-hand side, double-digit DraftKings points in 3 of his last 5 games. 12, 13, 23 and a half DraftKings points. $5,100, again, we need 15.3 DraftKings points in order for him to meet 3x value. I don't love the timeshare there with Antonio Gibson, but I do love the matchup at home against the Arizona Cardinals, who could legitimately be the worst team in the NFL this season. And then the last thing I want to mention here at the running back position is if Jonathan Taylor is traded before week 1, we're going to see Deion Jackson and Evan Hull take over as the number 1 backs. Kind of a 1A, 1B situation would be my guess. You can see Deion Jackson there is $4,100. Evan Hull is going to come in at an even $4,000. That's the bare minimum at the running back position, so something to keep an eye on there as well. Now, folks, before we dive into the wide receiver plays here, if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. We're on our way here to 3,000 subs on DraftDogg Sports, and not only will I have NFL content coming out for you guys all season long, but I'm going to have hockey content coming out all NHL season 2. That is less less than just 2 months away. Really excited for that. Plus, if you haven't checked it out yet, we brought a brand new series to SlyDawg Sports this summer called Mulligan Masters, more on the entertainment side of things. Here's a little preview to that.
Mob Deep is in the house.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're calling for them. We're going to pick their club here. They're going to hit a 60 degree.
All right, we're taking our throw here.
Yours might be in. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Mulligan Masters. So there you have it. NHL, NFL, and Mulligan Masters content coming your way here on SlyDawg Sports. Now let's dive into these wide receivers. And right away at the top of the wide receivers here, I would truly be comfortable rostering Jefferson, Kupp, Hill, or Jamar Chase in my cash lineup and for sure in my tournament lineups. The two that really stick out to me here are Justin Jefferson and Cooper Kupp. I would prefer to have one of those two guys in my cash lineup, but if you do need to save here with Tyreek or Jamar Chase, I really don't think you can go wrong there. Now there's some really nice names here in the 6 and 7K range as well. Devontae Adams, A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, T. Higgins, Calvin Ridley, Chris Olave. I don't want to say you couldn't put those in your cash lineup because I see enough volume to where I think you could, but those are more tournament plays here initially for me. The best value that was sticking out to me here was in the 5K range, and I actually got 4 guys here in this 5K range, so we're going to need anywhere from 15 to 17 DraftKings points in order for them to meet that 3x value. My favorite play in this range here is Mike Williams of the Chargers. Obviously talking about the Chargers quite a bit here on this video. Love the matchup at home against Miami, a lot of shootout potential there, but the reason I like Mike Will in particular is for 2 main reasons. Number one, the price here at $5,700. His teammate in Keenan Allen was priced in the 7K range, so we're getting a massive discount here on Williams. And I also like the idea of him playing in the slot. The rumor is with Kellen Moore coming in as the offensive coordinator, they want to get the ball in Mike Williams' hands more, and in order to do that, they're putting him in the slot. So this is a guy who could easily see 6 targets in week 1 with upside of 10 plus, and we all know how they use him in the red zone. He's definitely got some nice touchdown upside. The other 3 guys that I liked here in this range were Amari Cooper at $5,800, but I do like his teammate slightly more. Touch on him in just a minute. And then Cortland Sutton here with Jerry Jeudy going down. Have to suspect that Sutton's going to be the number 1 wide receiver in this offense, but I happen to like his teammate a little bit more at a cheaper price tag. And then Michael Thomas there of the New Orleans Saints. Look, I'd love to pay up for Chris Olave, and I know Thomas hasn't been fully healthy in over 2 years now, but I saw enough in those first 3 weeks last year to kind of warrant him at this price. It is obviously a new quarterback with Derek Carr, but the rumor is, at camp so far, him and Michael Thomas have looked really good. So I'm going to have to dig into that one a little bit more, but the Tennessee Titans secondary was brutal last year. I don't think they got much better here this offseason, so Thomas did stick out to me. Considering that price, we need about 15.3 DraftKings points. You know, again, going back to last season, he did that in 2 of 3 weeks, and the targets were definitely there. So I'll look into that one a little bit more, but this 5K range certainly looks nice initially. Now in the 4K range here, there are some interesting tournament plays in my opinion, but we're going to creep down here to the 3K range where there's 2 value wide receivers that I absolutely think we need to consider here in week 1. First being Elijah Moore of the Cleveland Browns. His route running has been immaculate at training camp so far. Coaches have all the praises in the world for him, and at this price of $3,800, we only need 11.4 DraftKings points in order for him to meet that 3x value, so I do like that. He'll be the wide receiver number 2 in that Cleveland Browns offense. And then I'm probably going to have to search this last one here, Marvin Mims, because he's the bare minimum $3,000. Jerry Jeudy is out at least for the first 3 weeks of the season. Mims made a huge catch in their final preseason game for 50 yards, and he should be locked in as the wide receiver number 2 heading into week 1. That could change mid-season, but bare minimum price, we need 9 DraftKings points out of him. If he sees 4 or 5 targets in this game, he could definitely get there. Might be able to get there with ease. We then got the tight ends here, and I'm going to keep it simple. Look, we don't have Travis Kelce here on the main slate. Chiefs are playing the Lions in the Thursday night opener for the NFL. We do got Mark Andrews, Hawkinson, and Kittle. Those are obviously big names at the tight end position, but honestly, more tournament considerations for me, not cash game plays for week 1. I think Evan Ingram is certainly interesting for the Jags, but I'm going to go back to another Charger here at $4,300. $7,300 with Gerald Everett. Love this matchup here against Miami, and I just think the Chargers are going to come out the gates throwing the ball as much as possible. We know Kellen Moore wants to do that. Now I'm going to find some other punt options for you guys in my final cash plays video before week 1, but I wanted to highlight one more guy here that I think we could go to if we wanted to punt here early on with Luke Musgrave of the Green Bay Packers. Again, I don't love rostering rookies in my cash lineup, especially this early on in the season, but it's clear that Musgrave is going to be a focal point in this Green Bay offense. You saw him clicking kind of early and often with Jordan Love in the preseason, and at $2,900, we don't need much from him, just 8.7 DraftKings points in order to meet 3x value. But again, I'm going to keep it simple here for the first early look. I'll have some punt options in my final cash video. And then wrapping up the positional plays here before we do that first look cash lineup, we got the defenses. Again, going to keep this simple. Typically don't spend up for defense in my cash lineup. We'll do that in tournaments. I see a lot of people going to the Texans. I'm not going to be one of those people. I'm not playing the Texans on the road against Baltimore. Baltimore could put up 30, 40 points in that game. I'm willing to spend the extra $700 to get to the Commanders. Now, this is a defense that could legitimately get you 10 plus DraftKings points against the Arizona Cardinals. Mentioned earlier, that could be the worst team in football this year. No Kyler Murray in week 1. Actually just got that news here today. They could rack up 4+ sacks in this game. They could score a defensive touchdown. I'm pretty sure that I'll be locking in the Commanders to my cash lineup for week 1, barring something crazy doesn't change between now and then. At 2.8K, we need 8.4 DraftKings points. Again, against Arizona, by all means, I think they can do that. Alright everyone, to wrap up this video here then, we're going to put together a first look cash lineup. Let's start at the quarterback position here. Talked about the Chargers quite a bit. Love this matchup at home for them against the Miami Dolphins. A lot of shootout potential there. Let's roll with Justin Herbert here initially. Now I'm going to avoid stacking him up with Austin Eckler here for now, just to see what we can do with the rest of our lineup. I really do like Rachaad White here at $5,500, and I'm going to go and build this lineup here under the impression that Jeff Wilson does not play for the Miami Dolphins. Obviously, I don't know that here as of now. You can see he is questionable, but he left practice back on August 9th, and I don't think he's done much since then, so his week 1 playing time is certainly in jeopardy. Let's go with Raheem Mostert there, kind of getting a run back with Justin Herbert. Now, we got quite a bit of money left on the table here, and I actually do want to put in Gerald Everett there, stack him up with Justin Herbert. Again, love that matchup against Miami. Now we can do some things here at the wide receiver position. Average salary left, about $6,300. Let's put in 2 studs here right away. I'm going to go with Justin Jefferson and Cooper Kupp. So that leaves us with $3,900 left over per player, but I did highlight those 2 value wide receivers earlier in this video. We had Marvin Mims and Elijah Moore. Let's put in Mims right now and see what we have left over. So that's $4,900. There wasn't really anything in the 4K range that stuck out to me from a cash game perspective. I wouldn't mind going with a Brandon Ayuk, maybe a Nico Collins there. But actually, let's pivot here. Let's get away from Mostert there, because there's a chance that Jeff Wilson could play. Let's put in a Jamal Williams, mentioned him earlier. And actually, let's pivot. Now that we don't have a Miami Dolphin, let's go off of JJ there to Tyreek Hill. That gives us $5,800. Perfect. Now I can put in Amari Cooper there from the Cleveland Browns, who I highlighted earlier. Like I said, I do like Elijah Moore, $2,000 cheaper. He offers some nice value, but Cooper is clearly the number 1 wide receiver in that offense. Now, I would typically put the late game in here. That's got to be Cooper Kupp or Tyreek Hill, so we'll go to the flex spot there. Just some safe DFS practices. And then we can put Amari Cooper there in the wide receiver spot. For those of you who are new to DFS, the reason we put the latest game in the flex spot is in case we need to pivot last minute. That allows us to do that. We don't have to go just to a wide receiver then. I have $8,200 to spend at the tight end position, wide receiver, or running back. But that is my first look cash lineup there. We got Justin Herbert at the quarterback position, stacked up with Gerald Everett, running it back there with a Tyreek Hill. We got Jamal Williams and Rachaad White, some value plays at the running back position, and then Amari Cooper, Cooper Kupp, and Mims, filling out the 3 wide receiver spots there. Like I said, I'm probably going to lock in the Commanders as my defense. I don't mind how that looks at all heading into week 1. Alright everyone, that is going to wrap up this video here for today. As always, thank you all for taking the time out of your day to watch the content here on this channel. If you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. We're trying to get Sly Dog Sports to 3,000 subs, but in the meantime everyone, I'm out of here.